Did Sean Diddy Combs tamper with the witnesses? Or did he tamper with the jurors? Well, now some of the jurors are speaking out and one of his alleged victims.
Here we go now.
Welcome back to the Kempire channel, your #1 source for pop culture news and music, entertainment, reality TV, and so much more. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. So it's been a few days since we talked about the verdict in the Sean Diddy Combs trial. However, more people are speaking out, including the jurors, but also one of Diddy's former employees, Chef Jordan. You may have seen her on the Max documentary where she talked about an incident where Diddy physically assaulted her. She is also taking to social media talking about how Diddy's legal team had reached out to her when they found out that she had been approached by the Southern District of New York. But why didn't she testify? A lot of people also wonder why Christina Curran didn't testify. Why did Gina not testify? Why did Gina magically reappear when the jury was deliberating? Let's take a look at what Chef Jordan had to say before we get into what the jurors are now saying.
As one of the actual minor victims to Sean Combs' physical assault while I was employed by him, as someone who was a witness to the abuse towards Cassandra Ventura Fine during my time of working for Sean Combs, I would just like to say that this is a grave miscarriage of justice. And I would like to also address that last year on March 20th, I was contacted by the federal government. They showed up at my door with badges. I refused to speak to them because I was terrified. So I was served with a grand jury subpoena that day before they left my home in Atlanta, Georgia. I confided in 3 different people about that visit from the feds. Terrified is actually an understatement. By April 11th of 2024, I was being contacted by Sean Combs' initial lawyer, Aaron Dyer. I have a voicemail that he left and text messages stating that Mr. Combs was aware of the visit from the government and that they would like to extend to cover my legal fees. These are facts. This, in my opinion, was witness tampering.
And as you may recall, one of the reasons the Southern District of New York aimed to have bail denied for him multiple times, as you know, he's been denied multiple times even before the trial started, and then recently denied. The judge said, no, you already admitted to domestic violence, which is violence, so you're still a danger to society. I find it interesting, and she shares the text message that was sent by Aaron Dyer, Diddy's attorney. You may also recall Jane, who testified in this case, apparently not only was her rent being paid, her lawyer was being paid by Sean Diddy Combs.
I was supposed to testify this year on May 20th. I was in New York. It was announced. It was on CNN that I was supposed to be testifying, and I was pulled because I flipped out on the government. These are also facts. I want to be very clear. As a victim, as a former employee of Sean Combs, I do not feel safe. I am extremely traumatized. I do not know where to go from here. I did submit my own letter to the judge. I stand by everything that I said. I knew that he beat Cassie Ventura fine in 2009. I know that she was dragged from the vehicle, okay? I know that I saw her 2 days later at the London hotel when me and one of his assistants brought her a bag, okay? This was a miscarriage of justice. And beyond any of this, I don't really have anything more to say, and I really don't know where to go from here. Just know that I am terrified and I am traumatized. And it's honestly Kim.
So, look, she did provide receipts in regards to what she's saying. First of all, she provided the text message that Aaron Dyer sent to her. She says, "Dear Chef Jordan, this is Aaron Dyer. I'm Sean Combs' attorney. I left you a voicemail last week, but wanted to follow up. I had been told you had been contacted by law enforcement and might want an attorney to represent you. Let me know if you want to discuss or have us help with this. Feel free to call or text me anytime at your convenience. Aaron." Already, this feels like intimidation. She was on I believe it was the Max documentary, talked about the abuse that she had at the hands of Sean Diddy Combs. Why would she want Sean Diddy Combs as attorney or help in this representation against the government? Already sounds like witness tampering. But it also seems as if Chef Jordan's issue is not just with Diddy, it's also with the government and how this was handled. There were a lot of witnesses apparently on the list to testify, but the government midway through decided not to go with certain witnesses. Not sure exactly their justification for that, but they were keeping the witnesses under seal and they were slowly but surely revealing them during the trial. If you followed our trial coverage, you can find it here on our YouTube channel. We have a playlist where we talked every single day covering this trial. Philly, I will see you in just a few days. I'm bringing the Kempire After Dark, the Villain Era live show to your city. A night of hot topics, comedy, fun, and tea being spilled at City Winery on July 10th. Meet and greets are available for that show. And then we're coming to Atlanta on August 5th. Then we're back in Washington, D.C. on August 22nd. And then our final summer show will be here in New York City on September 12th. Don't forget, meet and greets are available for all the shows, but the New York City show has a special live stream option. So no matter where you are in the world, you will be able to witness the show and have the show for a week. More information on the Kempire After Dark, the Villain Era tickets will be available in the description. Get your tickets today. Not only did she provide that, she did also provide the letter that she received from the government confirming that she was subpoenaed to testify. So in the letter that she received, it states this: "Greetings, we command you," in all caps, "that all and singular business and excuses being laid aside, you appear and attend before the grand jury of the people of the United States for the Southern District of New York at the United States Courthouse, 44 Foley Square, New York, New York, in the Southern District of New York, at the following time and place." It says appearance date April 2nd, 2024, appearance time 9 a.m. "To testify and give evidence in regards to an alleged violation of federal law and not to depart the grand jury without leave thereof or of the United States attorney, and that you bring with you and produce the above time and place the following: journals, notes, photographs, or other records and materials memorializing or related to your employment by Sean Combs, aka P. Diddy, aka Puff Daddy, aka Diddy. Failure to attend and produce any items hereby demanded will constitute contempt of court and will subject you to civil sanctions and criminal penalties, in addition to other penalties of law." Date: New York, New York, March 19th, 2024. At the time, Damian Williams was the acting United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. She also provides the letter that she mentioned, and it's dated July 2nd, 2025. You remember, in covering this story, we read to you Cassie's letter to the court, to the judge, and also Deontay Nash's letter asking that they keep him in detainment. She writes in her letter, and apparently this is dated July 2nd, 2025 at 4:30 p.m. She says, "I am writing to express my grave concern over the possible release of Sean Combs. I believe he should be held without bail until his sentencing is determined. Thank you for your time and attention to this case so far. You are appreciated. I know that you did not hear from me during the trial, but that I was in fact listed as a witness to Mr. Combs' abuse towards Cassie Ventura Fine. You also heard testimony about Mr. Combs assaulting me inside of his New Jersey estate. There has been, remember, there was an assistant that testified to this. There has been a clear pattern of physical, sexual, and financial abuse on his part for years. Releasing him now would be unjust." She continues, she says, "Those of us who were subpoenaed are terrified at the possibility of his retaliation against us. I'd like to express how terrifying this whole ordeal has been for me personally. This past year and a half has been traumatizing. This verdict is devastating. His release would be sending a dangerous message to all survivors and victims of these types of crimes. I fear for my safety upon his release. I ask that you consider all the victims and witnesses involved in this case. Thank you for your careful consideration in this matter." She dropped all the receipts confirming why she is fearful. But a lot of people have been speculating when we were first talking about juror number 6 and why he was confused on where he lives. And we also covered the 14-page motion that Diddy's legal team sent to the judge a couple of weekends ago because they wanted to keep this one black male juror on this jury. Again, because it's supposed to be a jury of your peers. It's someone that might be able to look at Sean Diddy Combs and relate to him. However, the judge decided that no, in order to have a fair trial, we need to get rid of this person, because if he can't answer basic questions, then he's not going to be able to handle jury deliberations. And we talked about this with Kirsten Brown here on the channel, a prosecutor, in regards to what that looks like and why it would be critical to have someone that is able to be open, honest, and also understand what the job entails. Well, speaking of what the job entails, the jury is now speaking out, and one alternate juror has done an interview. But before we get to what he had to say, let's take a listen to what this news report is saying the jury is speaking out, because there are thoughts and opinions where people are saying that the jury were enamored by Sean Diddy Combs' celebrity status.
Morning, a juror from the Sean Diddy Combs trial requesting to remain anonymous, slamming the notion that the music mogul's celebrity profile drove their decision. In a statement to ABC News saying, "I found that statement highly insulting and belittling to the jury and the deliberation process," adding, "Our decision was based solely on the evidence presented and how the law is stated. We would have treated any defendant in the same manner regardless of who they are." The jury of 8 men and 4 women acquitted the rap titan of the most severe charges of sex trafficking and racketeering, but convicted him on 2 counts of transportation to engage in prostitution as it relates to ex-girlfriends Cassie Ventura and the woman who testified under the pseudonym Jane. An alternate juror telling CNN, though he wasn't part of the deliberations, he agrees with the verdict.
I took a copious amount of notes. I think reading all my notes and looking back at the evidence, I probably would have reached the same conclusion as the other jurors.
That's the only juror that has done interviews so far. Not only did he talk about what he thought from the court proceedings over the last 2 months, he also talked about some of the witnesses, including Dawn Richard, and saying that unanimously, the jurors did not believe her at all.
It's their way as well.
Were there any witnesses that made you think, I don't believe this?
There was one that I think, unanimously we kind of all said, like, wow. Like, it was almost like watching like TV. It was like, like when I think her name was Dawn Richard, that one. When she on cross-examination, I mean, I never saw such a cross-examination. It was very impressive to watch.
What was it about it?
I think just how the defense, got into her and really made her, look very not credible. I mean, I even wrote in my notebook that it was like a takedown.
Really?
Here's the thing. Something that stood out to me when he says that as a jury, they unanimously rejected her testimony. First of all, the jury is not supposed to speak unless he's talking about afterwards. But again, Dawn testified so many weeks ago. And again, this jury was not sequestered. You can't control human beings altogether. Do we believe that the jury did not speak about what they were seeing and experiencing during this time? We will never know. However, one thing that a lot of people have said, and based off, and again, if you're not in the room, we have to remember, not only did this jury see everything, they saw more than even people that were in the room when it comes to the freak offs. He talked about seeing the freak off tapes and footage. And again, the jury just did not seem 100% convinced that the prosecution really brought home that there was S trafficking or a racketeering conspiracy. We've covered this from day one, and a lot of prosecutors, when we talked about this before, also felt like they're not 100% sure that the Southern District of New York really rang home the enterprise. Again, it's one thing to look at this from a legal sense, but it's another thing to remind ourselves that the jury are people like us. And if the majority of people that are following this, that aren't even necessarily in the courtroom and seeing everything, are not 100% convinced, the fact that they came back with this verdict says to me that the prosecution really just did not drive home the point that they were trying to make. And maybe they charged him with the wrong thing. But one thing that I've said countless times is that it's one thing to understand that, you know what, the prosecution didn't do what they were supposed to do. Maybe he shouldn't be convicted on these particular charges. But the defense, very much like what the judge said during the bail hearing this past week, one thing that you rang home is that he definitely committed domestic violence. He definitely is a bad person. He definitely is still a threat to society. So for those that continues to say free Diddy, or you're a Diddy supporter, Shamia, Candy, Tiny. For me, no, you're still defending a terrible human being who we've seen on video harm someone. We're not judging Diddy on being a, quote, freak or into certain things. A lot of people are still against Diddy because of his bad behavior, not just to his partners, but to his employees and everyone he encountered. Guys, as always, I want to know your thoughts on what Diddy's former chef is saying on social media and what one of the alternate jurors are saying now in interviews. Let's continue this conversation in the comment section. As always, be sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on breaking news when we go live or when we upload. Thanks for watching.
Here we go now.